All right, this talk is going to be about. I'm going to try to condense and simplify and make succinct and concise the way that the Confederation is going to operate, because that's really going to be the main thrust, unless or until I get the Empire and the imperial governance system figured out. But I have an idea that I'm definitely going to try at some point. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be in the Confederation, and I'm pretty sure that that's going to happen, if not right off the bat, then immediately after I start. But the way that the Confederation is going to work is, like, the main feature of it is that you establish cultural norms, and the cultural norms are what end up being the laws. So what happens is that people congregate and assemble together when they commit some act. After they do that, to the point where 66% or more of a population of any given contiguous area, if anyone in any given area, if 66% of the population during the course of a year all commit the same set of acts and all don't commit the same set of acts, if at least 66% of those people, fall into alignment, that will establish a cultural norm. If they don't do that, they'll fall under the imperial law de facto and whatever base constitutional laws that the Confederation has, but they won't have anything added to that. So basically what I'm describing is a cascading or a gradated level of strictness, so that you can actually determine how strict or how lenient you want your government. The most lenient is the imperial side. That's the most simplistic side, and that one I've just started to work on recently, so I don't have that fleshed out at all yet, but I've been working on the Confederation for quite a while, off and on, here and there. So the Confederation of Concordia will definitely be using that cultural norm law. So that changes fluidly. It changes every year. So every year the government reviews all the surveillance footage throughout the year, and then at the end of that year they come out with the statistical norms. If a cultural norm gets established, it forms what I call a syndicate. It syndicates, which means that those set of acts that are committed by at least 66% of the population in that area become legal, and the acts that they don't commit become illegal. And it's not just any act they don't commit. The people that are in that area don't commit that act, but other people outside that area do. So it has to be a discernible act that we've seen before, and it just doesn't occur there. And as long as it doesn't occur there by 66% of the population by the end of the year, then it's considered illegal. And so each of these areas is going to have a specialization then, and the zones, like where you're going to sell pot or not, those, because they have to be contiguous, will have to be grouped together and integrate into a proper zone without having like weird pockets or anything like that. And they form organically and through self-organization and direct action, rather than filling out forms and doing this bureaucratic bullshit. And that's what I like about it, is you can actually strip away all politicians, the entire political system, with one exception. The only real necessary part of the government that you do have to employ for the political part of establishing cultural norms and syndicates is the surveillance system. So you do have to have people, but they don't have to necessarily be like 9 to 5 employees. They can be decentralized so that anybody can do this. And that will make sure that it is reflective of the population that is being, defined by that norm. That way, no one's defining anyone else. People just define themselves. They do it through acting in a particular way. So there's going to be people that smoke pot, and they're all going to congregate into a pot smoking area. And they don't allow non-pot smokers to come in and then just not smoke pot over and over and over inside of their contiguous area. Now, what that means is that you don't have to smoke pot when you go there. But if people keep doing it, then it becomes a cultural norm, and then it becomes legalized, and that's the zone of that area. So that's then zoned for pot. So it's like, okay, well, if you smoke pot, if you want to buy pot, if you want to grow pot, you'll need to go into that area in order to do it. And then other places where people don't do that, that will then become illegal. So then you'll not only be considered socially weird to have done it, but you'll actually be held legally liable to have done it outside of the zone that it's permitted to be done in. Now, while that seems like it might be a little bit harsh, it just means that because you could still live in that area, and then you would be able to smoke pot inside your apartment, and you wouldn't be able to lose your rent or your security deposit or get evicted or whatever for growing pot in your fucking apartment, because it would be legalized. It's, the cultural norm. If enough people do it, if enough people grow pot, then it becomes legalized. So the way that you change the law is the same way that you would change people's actions. So you literally just go and convince people to do what you're doing, which is what politics really should be, ideally, is that you would be a good enough role model that you would have already done it yourself. You've seen the benefits for that, and then you want to show other people those benefits because it genuinely did help you. That is what should be driving politics, not how many votes can I get, what kind of a slick ad campaign can I come out with, who's got really deep pockets that I can reach into, etc. And that's what politics ends up becoming without this idea where it's just direct action. And it's not even voting, it's just direct action. And I guess you could consider it a vote because the majority, wins and all that stuff. But your action is the vote instead of you filling out paperwork. So it's sort of like a pure democracy in a way, but yet you can't have a blanket of laws over the entire nation because people are diverse. So the way that I got around that was that you just have to make it contiguous. So you can't allow, like I said, like a pocket to form in there where people in the pot smoking circle don't smoke pot over and over and over in the same place inside of the pot smoking area, where it's like, okay, this is what we do here. You don't have to do it, but if you're going to come here, you should, indulge at least sometimes. You should partake in it. If you don't ever do it and you always go to the same place, then you're going to start establishing that as the cultural norm. So you either get with it or get out, basically. And I know that sounds really harsh, like I said again. I know that sounds harsh, but what happens then is you'll develop a natural community where whatever it is that you guys are doing, that will be considered cool and good. And that's good. And you'll then have that area designated for that act or those acts. And that means that if people aren't committing those acts, that the area goes back to the default. So while legal acts wouldn't change because by default they're already legal, illegal acts would become legal. So the only people that would get pissed off about it would be the more conservative types that want to ensure that no one starts doing something that they weren't previously doing. So that's something that they would be concerned with, but they wouldn't be so much concerned with getting people to do what they're already doing, because that should already be spontaneous anyway. But maybe around the borders, or to close a pocket, like I was saying, something like that in acute emergency or freak kind of events like that, then you might have to do that. But most of the time, I think the straw that breaks the camel's back kind of a thing is going to be more about illegal stuff. Like, well, I don't want pot in my community. I don't want that legalized here. I don't want people smoking joints and having to smell it everywhere I go, and I don't know what's in it, and blah blah blah. If I want to be an old grandpa about it, back in my day we didn't smoke pot. That's bad. Whatever. Those people are going to be the ones that are contentious about changes in the law, because that's going to make things that they think should be illegal legal. And the people that don't care, that are more on the liberal side, they're not going to care so much, because the legal acts will always stay legal. They're just always legal. It's things that people don't do in areas that make things illegal. So when you don't smoke pot over and over and over in the same area, it's eventually, if you keep doing that long enough and the people around you also don't do it in that same place, it will eventually establish a cultural norm, and then it will become illegal to do it. If you go in that area and you do it, it'll be illegal. And then, of course, that's done every year, so that if it changes, if a whole bunch of pot smokers move in and they just keep breaking the law anyway and just doing it, then it starts to become legal, because there's so many people doing it that it just gets legalized in that area. It doesn't get legalized in any other area. It doesn't get legalized over the entire state. It just gets legalized in that one area that people keep doing it at. And then it grows according to how many people are doing it in that adjacent contiguous area. That's how you grow things. And that's how you would vote, is you would actually commit that act at that place. And that's what it would be all about. Instead of doing protests, you would go and it's almost like a flash mob sort of event, where you would go there and you would just commit an act. And then that's how it would change the law.